All right, we're gonna let the music go, but welcome back. We're back. Two fans, one Paul. Myself, David Quist, lovely co-host KB Kirk Brown. We've been off for about 8 months. We're busy people. You got a dad over here, and you got a busy guy in KB over in Arizona. I'll throw it to him in a second. Obviously, we're gonna do things a little bit different this season. I think we're gonna focus more on our teams. Don't go too broad. Shorter, quicker episodes for everybody to ingest and continue with their lives. So things are good with us, but I'll throw it to KB. And then we can break down our teams and dive deep in our schedules to get back into the swing of things, KB.
Yeah, you said it really well there, Dave. I don't have an excuse of the busyness that Dave has, but trying to line up our schedules with a 3-hour time difference is difficult at times to, get right. So we're hoping that we can give you guys, shorter, quicker episodes, mostly focused on Michigan State. I think the plan is to highlight one game of the week game. We'll be able to go more in depth on the game, be able to make sure that we can watch it and really sit there and not miss it as much as we have with some of the other games that we've had to watch back quick playthroughs or highlights. So I think that's going to be our goal this year, is to really give you guys that on our bye weeks for our teams. We'll do 2 games so we're basically going to be covering 3 games in these podcasts, and then any other big news that comes out. Obviously, we still have the Michigan things lingering out there, and whenever that comes through, we're definitely going to talk about that. And obviously other things happening, like if there's a huge upset, we're obviously going to cover and talk about it, but it's not going to be in our set agenda of things. So I'm excited to talk about this. I think too we're going to try to get up some more YouTube space. Make it a little bit more seen there, bring in some fans. But outside of that, we're just covering Michigan State football as a main focus point. Dave, anything else you got to say before we get into this breakdown?
Not really. I mean, State's got a new AD, which is big news, I guess, in this sphere. And obviously lots of things with NIL and, players getting, shared revenue now, which officially changed July 1st and all that stuff. So be interesting to see what happens over the course of time and how schools adapt. I think Jay Batt is a good hire for fundraising and getting more money into NIL for Michigan State. So we'll see. But yeah, that's just the biggest update I can think on my end, unless you got anything else for the lovely U of M, KB? If not, we can jump in.
The president left. He
didn't get hired.
The Florida Drive. They basically said, actually, we don't want you, so he didn't get hired there. So he's unemployed himself a bit there. From what I've heard from some of the board members and some of the higher ups in Michigan, they weren't necessarily upset that he left. It sounds like he had made a lot of promises in his first few years. And, by the time he was like a yes man, he said, yeah, we'll take care of it. Yeah, we'll take care of it. And then things weren't getting done around campus that had been promised. So I think overall, Michigan's a really difficult university to, be a president of. There's a huge medical, there's a lot of other things that, like, sports isn't necessarily the driving point for the president. And then with obviously all the funding and all the, not to get political, but Trump stuff that's affecting universities, that definitely impacts and puts pressure on a president. And so we'll see what the changes are. Like I said, I don't know how much that really affects football, but it is a major change at the university with the president, coming and going.
Yeah, for sure. We'll keep that on the radar, and same thing for State, see if anything changes. But let's jump in, KB. Let's go. We're kind of going to do this off the cuff. Let's do offense, and then we can break it down by position group as we go, if that's all right. So I'm thinking offense. I'll talk quarterback, you'll talk quarterback, and we'll run from there. So offense for Michigan State, I'll start with quarterback and then throw it to you, and then you can rebuttal. Obviously, State has the quarterback. We have Aiden Childs back for year 2. True junior, I believe. I think he's got so much upside, KB, and obviously we'll talk about receivers in a minute for State, but I think we've got a massive upgrade there. So if we can run the ball effectively, Childs has that NFL talent in his arm, but obviously he has to get better, less mistakes, better with the ball, less interceptions. I think he could be a really good quarterback. It's just we're in a pro style, and we need to develop him. So I think he's got a very high ceiling, but also a very low floor when he plays bad. I think he could kind of have a breakout year if the O-line has gotten better, like they're saying. But it's his car, per se, and then the backups sounds like, I can't ever say the guy's name. He's been doing all right, Misalovic or something like that. And then we got another kid, Hannon, from Cali. But obviously, Childs is the guy. if anything happens to him, it might be a disaster. But if he can stay healthy and run a little bit more this year, get down when he needs to, less fumbles, less picks, I think there's a lot of upside there. And I think it's interesting to have Childs as true junior and then throw it to you with Bryce Underwood and Mikey Keene from Fresno. So that's my thoughts so far on the QB room for State. Would love to hear what you got to say for Michigan.
Yeah, and just to highlight it, Child kind of gives me strong, unbelievable athlete, but just so inconsistent with his footwork and accuracy last year. Really just put a limiter on it. I think he completed like 56%, something around
Relatively
there,
low, yeah.
of his passes. Yeah, and so there's a lot of clear openings and obviously a lot of ups to his throws because he can make every throw to the field. There isn't like a boundary throw he can't make. But yeah, accuracy is definitely a concern there. You want to see that, continue to go up. That would be the one area where I think he threw a lot of picks, but there's a lot more opportunities for picks too that were dropped. So definitely going to be interesting. So yeah, I mean, Michigan's QB room, it isn't going to be worse than last year. I guarantee that. We will be able to complete passes. I mean, we were playing basically a running back who couldn't refuse to throw and a true walk-on cancer survivor that hadn't played
still on the team
in like 3.5 years. So I mean, no offense to Warren, he was playing the position of quarterback when Michigan beat OSU last year, but it was a disaster offensively, all things considered. We couldn't throw a forward pass. We barely broke 1,000 yards passing. TDs, interceptions weren't good. Get any running game. It was just a mess. So I think it's kind of two things here. Bryce Underwood, it's a true battle. He's leading. I think partially he's leading because Mikey Keene was out in the spring. That was a huge, opportunity for Bryce Hayden Davis, who's a former four-star, going into his redshirt freshman season to get a ton of reps. Bryce Underwood is the ceiling player. Like, he has the high ceiling, of prospects that we've seen come out since, like a Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence type of guy. Like, it is a unbelievable amount of skill, talent that he has. It's all about learning an intricate offense, learning where to go with the ball, learning when to force passes, when not to. So that's really going to be what his thing is. And you have Mikey Keene. He's played in a ton of games. He was at UCF, and he came in behind Dylan Gabriel as a true freshman when Gabriel went down with an injury at UCF. So he's been around
That's a long time ago.
He was at UCF a few years ago. Then he was at Fresno State for 2 years. He sat out at the end of last season, I think, to save like a redshirt year because he never redshirted. I think this is more, hey, he's a veteran. He's played in a ton of games. And I'd be really surprised if he started because even if right now he's a better quarterback than Bryce Underwood, the more games Bryce puts together, the better he's going to be, and he's going to be better than him quickly. So it will be interesting to see what the decision leading up to Oklahoma. Like I said, Bryce is in the lead. I feel more comfortable right now than I did last year. And I think overall, I would say last year I was like, hey, this could be whatever. They're saying things out of camp, but this one I'm a bit more confident because we've seen, like, we have a solid floor with Mikey Keene, and then we'll see with Bryce Underwood. But it's definitely Bryce Underwood's right now job to lose at this point down the last next 3 weeks of camp.
Totally fair, KB. My big worry for Bryce is they were so damn good at Belleville. I don't think he ever won a state championship because I feel like when they played in the regulars, he did one because it wasn't senior year.
At sophomore.
Okay, sophomore.
At sophomore, junior year, he won one.
Because what I remember watching or seeing in the stats is what he would never finish games because they would blow the shit out of people. And then they would sit in the second half, and then he would play in the playoffs. He'd play the whole game. And for me, I understand that in high school when you're blowing teams out, but that's also snaps taken away from him because their team was so damn good. So I wonder if that has hurt his progression. Obviously, the better he gets in college, he'll get better. I think it'll take some time. There might be a learning curve. But, I mean, he's athletic. He can run. He can sling it. He's tall. He has all the intangibles. He will struggle, in my opinion, as a freshman. I think we all know that, just like Childs did as a true sophomore. But I think if Michigan's smart, they make it kind of easy on him. That can get warmed up in games, some underthrows, some screens, and then hopefully he's starting to feel comfortable towards the end of the year. I think that'd be kind of fun to see, and obviously in 3 years he could be really damn good.
Yeah, and that's a fair point. Like, I think there's a lot of people that, they think of a first time starter and like there's going to be dumb mistakes. There's going to be a throw where you put your hand on your head. JJ had them. Cade had them. Every single quarterback, when it's your first time starting, the game's moving so fast, you're worried about so much. There's going to be mistakes. It's about, are the big plays that he's going to make by being that naturally gifted outweigh that? And that's what you see teams figure out. Because team, you're not going to have that. You're not going to have the dumb throw because he can't escape the pocket. He'll throw the ball away, right? So that's really what the leveling board is going to be. So I'm excited to see where it goes out. I don't know, and obviously Oklahoma week 2, not to get in the schedule yet, but that's a real test. So
For sure.
But Quist, next group up, I think we should talk about is the O line. Give me the O line. It's the most important position I think on offense after the quarterback. You got to protect them. You got to be able to run the ball, and life is a lot more difficult when you don't have great offensive linemen. So, what have you been hearing from camp?
Yeah, so from camp, it sounds like I'm not great with names on O line, which is kind of a travesty for all of us because that is really where the money is made and how you win games. So shout out to O linemen. But I know we got a couple transfers in. I think we got one from. I don't know if the guy from Montana State's or D-line, but we got a guy from Wake Forest. We got a guy from Oregon State that was with the staff 2 years ago before they came to state. We still have the O-line coach that has really high respect and regarded. And it sounds like we've gotten deeper. I feel like you need 20 to 30 guys on scholarship because you're going to get banged up and, O-line guys get hurt left and right. I've heard good things. I think the more time we are under this O-line coach, hopefully he stays for a while, the better for the program. Jonathan Smith is about running the ball, and you can't run the ball without a good O-line. And our running back room is just a bunch of guys trying to get the spot, so that will be a conversation too in a minute. But yeah, I'm feeling good. I think we'll be better. It's been, I always listen to other state podcasts, it's been a 10-year drought since we've had a decent line. And when we had Kenneth Walker, the line was mid. He just made things happen. So things should be better. I think our run game could be successful if, one, Childs runs a little bit, two, the O-line can get a push, and, guys got to be rotating in. I think Golbin is the guy from Wake Forest, and I'm blanking on the guy from Oregon State, but I think he's tackle or center, but he's pretty damn good too, and obviously have a lot of guys returning. So sounds like the line should be better than last year, which should be a thing since you have a second year with the staff. It sounds like the guys are gelling well, and one of the podcasts I was listening to, this is a kind of an O-line coach where if you're not testing say you're playing D-line in a drill and you're not testing and going hard, you're going to get it. He's going to be getting your grill, and like that's how you make each other better. Iron sharpens iron kind of thing. So it sounds like they're digging deep, and they just had a scrimmage this Saturday. So I bet you a lot of guys got a lot of work in, and they kind of found out who's the first and second teams. But things are sounding good and should be better considering it's our second year with this coaching staff.
Very nice. Yeah, I don't know anything about your D-line or O-line. Sorry, I won't comment on it. That's a very valid point. Like post-COVID, from Mel Tucker era kind of forward. I mean, you guys used to have some maulers inside. I mean, that was how you guys built yourself, and it's been a while. So it'll be interesting to see yourself if you guys can get back there under this new O-line, not new, but this O-line coach and this staff. That'll be important, to really be able to impose yourself. But yes. For Michigan, we lost, but we didn't lose. So the starting left tackle, Miles Hitton, ended up getting drafted last year. The center that ended up getting beat out for the job, he transferred to Missouri. And then our left guard ended up, graduating. So from left tackle, right now is Evan Link and Blake Frazier / a few other guys are battling. This is one of the spots that up. Evan Link played right tackle last year, but he came in playing left tackle. Feels a little bit more comfortable there. This dude's really good in the run game. Like, he's one of the better run blockers, but pass protection, he's just so big that he can't, like some of the more athletic defensive ends, he just can't keep in front of them. So it sounds like he's doing better in camp, but that's a real concern. That's the blind side for what could possibly be a true freshman quarterback. They need to get that short up. Left guard is going to be Giovanni El Hadi. He was the right guard player last year. He's going to be fine. I don't expect a ton, but he's going to be a solid guy. Greg Crimpin, center, really smart guy. He knows all the calls on the line, so there's not going to be a lot of errors and not going to be a lot of stuff. But I don't expect him to be like some of these other centers that we had a couple of years ago. Oluwatimi would just make things right on the offensive line. He's starting for Seattle now. So there is a little concern maybe on the ability, but there's definitely a strong core. Right guard is one of the spots that's up for battle. It's between Nathan Afobe and Lawrence Hatter. Lawrence Hatter is one of the transfers, so we'll see. It sounds like Afobe is currently in the lead, but definitely a position to look at. And then right tackle, we've actually had a really pleasant surprise. Last year, if you guys remember, Michigan played Bama. Miles Hinton, the left tackle, sat that game, and Andrew Sprague started at right tackle as a freshman. And he held his own against Bama's defensive line. Bama was playing a lot of their starters. So he's a mountain of a man. He's like 6'8", 340. So he's a huge right tackle. Can move people in the run game, light on his feet. So I'm really interested to see his growth. The year 1 to year 2 growth is really good, and he held his own against Bama by the end of the year. So hopefully seeing them, two guys on the line that are really important to mention are the two high recruits that they got at both tackles positions. You have Andrew Babalola. He was a 5-star. I think he was 1 or 2 for tackles in the country. He's only been playing football for 2 years, so him starting is probably not going to happen at the start of the year. But by one of the second weeks of the bye, if one of the O linemen is struggling, you might be able to see him in because he's such a high level athlete. But obviously, takes a long time for offensive linemen to know the complexity of the offense and all the calls and stuff at this time of the year. And where's the other guy's name? Oh, it's not listed here. I can't think of his name, but there's another true freshman that was part of this really good recruiting class. Ty Haywood, I think his name is. I want to say Haywood. But he's also another one. He may be starting probably next year, but you may see some snaps down at the end of the year if some injuries happen. And like you said, Quist, depth is important. You want at least 10 people that you feel comfortable, that know the offense, that can at least roll out there and give you acceptable offensive line play. Because you have at least 1 to 2 guys injured, maybe at the same time, at minimum every year.
Yeah, I'm looking at mine too. We have a lot of transfers in, and I think what you guys have is some more. It's been continuing of guys. Yeah, we have our center, our guard, and our right tackle are all transfers, plus 1 more. So we have a lot of new guys, but a lot of old guys too. So it's a good combination. And shout out Luka Vincic. He's the guy from Oregon State, and then Matt Goldman's the guy from Wake. I think the depth is there too for us, but I think KB, you probably have the slight edge knowing the history with Michigan. But I wouldn't be surprised if State kind of takes a step forward this year with that coach and some older transfers that hopefully can figure it out. I think building an O-line like from freshman to your senior year, redshirt senior year, is the best way to do it. But I think a lot of ways the transfer portal helps teams now is plugging and playing, guys that played maybe FCS decent, or guys that played at the lower level like Mountain West, and you move them up. I don't remember if the guy I'm looking at is from Montana State or no. Yeah, so Connor Moore is another guy. He's the Montana State guy. They have him starting. Shout out to our lads. That's who I'm using again, just like last season.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Everyone that I listed, there's 2 transfers that came in, but they're most likely not going to be starters. Last year, Michigan had to replace 6 offensive linemen. They not even their top 5 because they used a lot of extra tackles and kind of a swing tackle. So they had to replace 6, and that's not including guys that left in the transfer portal. That was just guys who got drafted and picked up in the NFL. So it was a huge step, and I think a lot of the guys didn't have snaps. And this year, a lot of those guys are returning. The center's returning. Al-Hadi's returning. Sprague had the game, and then Link is returning. So there's a continuity there. And like you said, Quist, I think the best thing for the transfer portal is like when you can pick up 1 to 2 guys. Like whenever I do 3 or 4 transfers, I start to get nervous on the O-line for like all new transfers, all starting, just because it takes time to mesh, gel, get to know each other, and that's really hard to feel comfortable when you've known this guy for 5 months, when I've known this guy for 3.5 years. He's been playing next to me. So It'll be interesting to see. I do think Michigan's O-line is going to be better than last year. Struggled at times, but also it's really hard to play O-line when the other team knows you can't physically throw the ball down the field, and linebackers and everyone can steamroll downhill. Like, it isn't an accident that the offensive coordinator got replaced, right? There's a lot of things that go on, and part of that was the offense wasn't great, and it started with the O-line. They couldn't rely on them like they could three fifth-year seniors the year before.
Yeah, so interesting to see for both. I think I'm going to really pay attention to State because we have some older guys that came in and are still on the team. But next, KB, I think we do running backs. Probably pretty quick for me. We have four guys that are all probably going to get touches. I'm kind of curious to see who will be starter. My thoughts will be Elijah Toliver from Sac State. Shout out Cam Scadaboo, also went to Sac State and had a hell of a career at ASU. He's been around forever. He's a senior. It's his last season. I think he'll be the guy to start. But you also have Brandon Tullis, who's a big guy from Texas. You have Makai Frazier, also from Texas. Both are sophomores. And then you have a freshman from East Lansing who flipped from Bama back to State, Jace Colorizio. I think he could be solid too. I can see all four guys getting touches. I don't know if anybody gets over 500-600 yards personally. I can see this being like everybody gets touches, maybe ride the hot hand here or there, but a lot of their work will depend on the O-line, so I'm not really going to say much more. I think all four guys will get touches. My favorite personally, Brandon Tullis is a bigger back. I think he could be kind of a secret weapon, maybe make some catches out of the backfield as well, but he could be a good blocker towards the end. I think the reason why Toliver starts is because he's a freshman, or a senior, a transfer, has all that experience and probably is better at pass protection than the other guys are that are younger.
Is Toliver a pass catcher too? Like, who's your pass catcher in that group?
I would say Toliver, and I'm not sure about the other guys. I just know Tullis is the big body, and the other two are probably like 6 foot, 5'10" kind of running backs, which, Jace Colorizio could really be something, but obviously he's a freshman. East Lansing's a decent sized high school, but it's not huge. So, I don't know how much talent he's playing against. Obviously, if you go to the state championship, you're playing decent football, but it might take some time. If it's not like it's going to be like an LJ Scott situation where his freshman year is his best season, but he could, have some bursts here and there.
Yeah, and it's always interesting how they manage redshirt, depending on how deep the room is. That's always an interesting fact, too. Excited to see them. I mean, obviously, you guys have been swinging in the transfer portal ever since Kenneth Walker to find a lead back. You guys haven't, and this is no offense to you guys, but you haven't produced like a homegrown guy that's like a redshirt junior. I haven't felt like that since, post Antonio, where I felt like, oh my God, like, MSU has a great running back that like came from the system. Obviously, doesn't take anything away from Kenneth Walker, but the RB development from what you guys were previously at to where you are in the last 4 or 5 years post-COVID has been disappointing to say the least. But hopefully he works out. But hopefully some of these younger guys can stay with the program, win, develop, and play well. For Michigan, it's kind of a 2 back right now, and then whoever the third back is going to find his way in. Michigan, when it's 2 back, they are giving, it's probably going to be 40 carries. And it's going to go to 2 people usually. So the first guy is Justice Ains. He's the Alabama transfer. He didn't get a lot of carries last year, but he averaged, I think, 5 yards a carry while playing at Bama. He is your bit more home run hitter, top-end speed pass catcher. I'm excited to see him. He's a true junior. He played as a true freshman at Bama, so a lot to like there. I really think that there's a big opportunity for Michigan to use him. Reportedly, they paid him a lot to transfer over there. He's went to, and obviously Michigan and running the ball, is one of the most important things they focus on and do. So behind him is Jordan Marshall, a redshirt freshman. This is a Mr. Ohio guy, highly touted. He dealt with injuries early on in the year, so he's able to not play in enough games, but he had a hell of a day against Alabama. He broke a ton of tackles. He ran, Alabama had 5 linemen, 3 linebackers. They were like, Michigan can't throw the ball, and he was running through gaps and breaking tackles. He kind of looked Blake Corum-esque in the same way. He's a little bit taller. But the way that he was bouncing off defenders and his contact balance was really, really impressive in that game. Obviously, one bowl game isn't everything. I hope he, continues to work, and I think Justice Haynes being brought in to kind of be a leader and not give him, hey, you're still the redshirt freshman. You don't have to have this huge burden of being Michigan running back, I think is a really good thing because I think he's going to be more short yardage. I really like his burst. I don't know about his long end, like the high end speed to break away for like 70, 80-yard touchdown runs, but definitely in between the tackles, he's really, really strong. He runs We'll see how the rest of his game develops. I really didn't see him in pass protection or any pass catching last year, but it could be interesting to see. Next up, it's kind of up in the air. You have Bryson Kudzal, who's a redshirt sophomore. He got some run in the spring game. He looked okay. And then Jasper Parker, maybe a freshman to keep an eye on. He's a former 5-star that tore his ACL heading into his junior year, and he tumbled down the boards. He still had a really good senior season, and some teams backed off of him with that injury because it was a pretty aggressive injury because I think it even limited some of his senior year. But that's a guy that has that talent, that is strong, fast, and one injury kind of derailed his recruiting process because it was at one of those times, where it's just difficult for teams, there's huge jumps and swings your junior year up the board. So it'll be interesting to see if he has any time. He's a true freshman. And there's some other guys that are, waiting in the see, but it's primarily going to be 2 backs, maybe a third will get some carries, and then obviously injuries pile up in the running back field, so maybe one of these 3 or 4 guys down the line gets carries. But I'm excited about this group. Obviously O-line dependent, but definitely we will get, Michigan gets production, out of their running backs pretty consistently, so I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah, I'm going to shout out Jay Coyne, fullback, Michigan State Spartans. Would love to get one tutty out of him this season, so shout out to him. KB, do you have a fullback on your roster you got to shout out quick?
Yeah, Max Bredesen, man, he's been there. He came back for a 5th year. Last year, he smashes people, man. He's really strong, really good, really aggressive. The only complaint I have is that they motioned him basically wherever they were running the ball last year, and it just was very frustrating. But excited to see what he does. I think he can catch some more passes out of the backfield, which they haven't done with him a ton, but he's made some good catches. So I'm excited for him. He came back as a graduate, though, when he probably could have left for the NFL.
Awesome stuff. I love fullbacks. But I'm going to group receivers and tight ends together, KB. I think it makes sense for me here. I feel really fucking good about our wide receivers and tight ends. Receivers starting Nick Marsh, dog. He's a true sophomore. I think he could be a first, second-round pick in a couple years. I think he's got the speed and the hands. Obviously, the route running and the little things like blocking could always be tightened up and better, but you can see the talent there with him. Highlight catches throughout the season and big plays with him and Childs, which I love. Next, we got 2 transfers that are starting. Omari Kelly from Middle Tennessee and Crenshaw Touchdown McCray from Kent State, who still had I think he had 8 or 9, maybe 10 touchdowns for one of the worst teams in college football. So he was finding ways to score for a terrible team. I think these 2 guys could be electric this season. They're not big body guys, but they're quick. They can run routes. They're both older, senior and a junior. I think these guys could really make a difference with Childs. I think underneath balls and Marsh going deep, getting these guys in the slot, moving them around, I think they could be really dangerous. If we could run the ball just enough, there's lots of ways to get these 3 guys the ball. Plus, we have Evan Boyd, who's from Central. He's a bigger body. And then we got also Rodney Bullard Jr., who is a smaller body guy from Valdosta State D2, but I think he's a speedster. We had a couple of freshmen, too, that could be solid in the future, but feel really good about the receiving core with Marsh, Kelly, and McCray leading it, and the guys. I've heard good things about Boyd from Central transferring in. And then I think our tight end room might be one of the best in the Big Ten with Jack Velling, who had a down year, in my opinion. Then you have Michael Manzunius, who's a big dude. And then you have Brendan Parachek, who I think could be really good in the future. But those 3 tight ends, no transfers. All those guys were here last year. They all can block. They all have decent hands. I think it's just getting Velling the ball more in the red zone. He needs to have more than 1 touchdown. And if Manzunius and Parachek can kind of squeeze in there, because we will have 2 tight end sets, maybe 3 tight end sets from time, because we're a pro style. We'll run the ball. Would love to see these guys kind of be that spark to have that little safety blanket for Childs, because if he can find Velling or Manzunius on a little hook or out that's just wide open, take that all day, get comfortable, then take the shots to the 3 guys with the receivers. But I feel really good about this compared to last year. I think the speed and the talent is much improved, which helps Childs, who can sling it around, and just makes that offense more dynamic. We can run the ball a little bit. So I feel really, really good about tight ends and receivers.
Yeah, I mean, Michigan's a big question mark at receiver. Donovan McCulley, transfer from Indiana. He played in 1 game last year, had some lingering injuries. Decided to redshirt. Yeah, former quarterback. Yeah, he's 6'4", 6'5", big body. They gave him number 1 before he played in a game at Michigan, and it's a weird take. weird decision by the staff, but he has to be at least impressing in practices. So maybe our DBs are cooked or he's playing well. But honestly, I'm not too low on this group. I mean, I saw guys running wide open all last year, and the ball simply could not get to them. I know a lot of people are like, no, it's the receivers. That's who like I'm really worried about. I just think that that's a very ridiculous take. They weren't asked to do things. If you hear everyone basically out there like, oh my God, he's letting us run actual routes. He's giving us opportunities to make choice routes, to see leverage and go. And I think that it's not going to be perfect. I don't think they're an elite group, but I think they're going to give us a baseline that maybe we didn't think they were going to give. Just to go down the list, Fred Moore, Samaj Morgan are the two guys that have played a good bit. They're both true juniors. They've played throughout their freshman year. Fred Moore had a pretty good bowl game. I'm really looking forward to him. He's a fast. He can take the top of the defense, even though he's only around 5'11". And then they do have another transfer, Simpson. He's from UMass. He had a really good season last year, and he's by far their most established receiver. He's a slot guy, so it'll be interesting to see who wins that battle between him and Samaj and what they both can do. They have two true freshmen that I'm interested to see, and one more guy that I really think of, Mar Brower. He's 6'5", huge big body. I think they're going to be able to use him at times this year on go balls to kind of stretch the defense, go up and grab it. I think he has that ability, and if you have him and Donovan McCulley there, that really stresses the defense, having two really big, able-bodied guys. And then another freshman is... So this is going to be confusing if they both are having good years. We're both going to be saying Marsh and Marsh. I know yours is a Nick Marsh, but ours is an Andrew Marsh. He's a highly touted guy, really high opinions on him. He has to fill out his body a little more, but he is an absolute speedster. And then the last guy I want to mention is Channing Goodwin. He was a four-star recruit last year. Heard a lot of good things coming out of camp, dealt with some injuries. Sounds like he filled out his body a little bit more, and excited to see what he can do. You know, usually there's one guy in your wide receiver room that you're not thinking about that like ends up pop a little bit. Hasn't happened at Michigan because throw the ball, the last couple of years. But I think that there's an opportunity that Channing Goodwin has a pretty good season, and he just looks and moves like a high-end receiver. And then tight ends, Marlon Klein, obviously losing Colston Loveland, you're not going to be able to replace him, but he was out for most of last year. I mean, I know a lot of people don't really realize that, but he missed a lot of games with an AC joint injury that he tried playing again and again, and he ended up missing, I believe, the last 3 games of the season and 1 in the middle. So he missed about a quarter of the season last year. Marlon Klein stepped in. He's a bigger guy, really solid block. Logan Hansen and Zach Marshall. They have a bunch of guys in this tight end room. I mean, I'm the least worried about tight ends, maybe this side of the country. Michigan develops, produces, and puts out tight ends that can both block and catch year after year after year. And, they get big, strong guys, and they're able to catch and pass and everything else. There's thoughts when Luke Schoonmaker was leaving, they won't have enough Colston Loveland, and then there's so many times especially at Jim Harbaugh era, and this is still his recruits, that they were like, I don't know if we're gonna have a tight end to replace after Jake, but we have another all Big Ten selection. We have another all Big Ten selection. I do have to push back on one point you said though, Quist. Firmly, Ohio State with Max Clare probably has the best tight end room in the Big Ten. He's an absolute unit. Really excited to see him. Sad that he transferred to the rival, obviously. Don't like Ohio State getting better at all. But
Where's he from?
Because Purdue.
Purdue, okay.
He transferred from Purdue.
Got
it. He's a really, really good player. He breaks a lot of tackles. He can block. He can do a lot of things. And tight end's been an underutilized position at Ohio State, in my opinion, mostly because they have so many good receivers to throw to. So why would you throw to the slow, clunky white guy? It doesn't make much sense. Yeah. But that's my windup. On the offense, I mean, if we just get competent offensive play, that's all we need. We just need offense that doesn't go 7 straight 3-and-outs or like 1 first down or turn the ball over a ton. Like, we have to choose a struggle, right? We can either struggle moving the ball or turn over the ball a lot. Last year we did both, which is why they were horrible. I'm looking forward to the new OC. I don't think it's going to rewrite everything. I still think they're going to ball first. with Sharon Moore, offensive lineman background. He's going to want to run the ball. But I do think opening up the passing game to be more explosive, more dynamic, and give whoever's quarterback an opportunity to really push the ball vertically.
Yeah, we have Amari Kelly. He's wearing number 1 too. I mean, there's some history at state too with one. Chuck, obviously Charles Rogers, rest in peace. He wore 1, and recently Jaden Reed was number 1 as well. He switched. So hopefully Amari Kelly lives up to the for state. There is some history there too, just like the Michigan number 1. Before we jump to defense, KB, any other thoughts? Or you're good to go on defense? You're good to go. Okay, let's start with the D-line. I'll go first, and then I'll let you go, KB. We'll switch it up for linebacker. I'll let you go first for them. But D-line for state, a little bit of question mark. Obviously, we have Jalen Thompson coming back. He's pretty good D-end. We have Alex Van Sumeren. His brother played in the team as well. He was very highly recruited. He was a 4-star kid, I believe. He's been kind of banged up. He's pretty solid, but we don't really know. Behind those guys, you have Dunnigan, who has been around from Middle Tennessee a year or 2 ago, and then Ben Roberts. Those are 2 transfers, and then you have even more guys. Local kid, I want to shout him out, Ruquan Buckley, transfer from Nebraska a couple years ago. He went to Goblin Heights. It's cool to see him at state. Number 88, I'm pretty sure I see him at the Y working out with his dad, so I'd love to see him get some plays in there. Other D tackle is Grady Kelly from Florida State. He is pretty solid when he played there, so looking forward to having him. And then the right D end is a kind of a question mark for me. Transfers, we have David Santiago. He's from Air Force. He got a lot of snaps there, so that's interesting to see how that will work out. And then we have Anulu Lafalele. We have a lot of Hawaiian guys. We have like a Hawaiian connection. He's a transfer from Wisconsin. He didn't play much last year, but that's where we are. Obviously, there's some other guys in the D-line that could plug and play, but kind of a question mark. Obviously, we had the 2 big transfers last year before the season, Harmon, and I always forget the other guy, and they were obviously really damn good. So
He went to Florida, right?
One went to Florida, one went to Oregon. Yeah, I think that's right. And that one hurt. And I know Dunnigan's pretty solid. Ben Roberts is like the worm. He's got a great nickname. And then Van Sumeren, I think he needs to live up to that hype of that highly rated. I think he's a 4-star. And then Jalen Thompson's always been a tank. So I think the talent's there. Obviously, these guys should be rotating in, staying fresh. Injuries on the D-line happens as much as it happened on the O-line. And getting some pressure on the quarterback is always good without a blitz. I think that's something we've been not so great at recently. So hopefully these guys can get a push, and then obviously we'll get some blitzes in, of course, here and there. But I think we went like 8 straight games without a sack or something crazy. So definitely need to get pressure. I feel good about the interior with Grady and Van Sumeren. Knowing Grady's his history at Florida State was pretty solid. So I feel good about the D-line, but I think there's still a question mark, and I'm always an optimist. So we'll have to see what happens during the season, of course.
Yeah, I will say Van Sumeren, his brother transferred from Michigan, and then Alec, or that Van Sumeren that you're talking about, he flipped his commitment from Michigan to MSU. So he followed his brother, which was, I think, pretty cool in his commitment. So wish he was maybe at Michigan with some of the transfers we had to take in. But yeah, that's an exciting group. And to go back again, I mean, when D'Antonio was there, those D-lines were just, there's guys getting drafted, and you guys haven't had those dogs, or they leave. Like Derek Harmon was a really good player, and he got paid a boatload of money to go to Oregon, which sucks. And keeping those guys and believing in those guys is important as MSU tries to climb back up the hill, to get back into being really competitive football. I think the defensive line is the most important aspect. All of the good teams have absolute units of D-lines. It's just the way it is. It's how you win games. It's how you impact quarterbacks that, are going to be first-round draft picks. All right, we can rush for, you can drop everyone else, and we can still get after you. So it will be interesting to see how that group goes.
For sure.
Michigan's D-line, we lose 2 first-rounders. We lose, I believe, a late second or early third-rounder, defensive end Josiah Stewart. Obviously, Kenneth Grant, Mason Graham, 2 of the best defensive tackles that ever played at Michigan. And it's going to sound goofy, but I'm not too concerned about the defensive line group. I think that the strength of the unit is going to change. I think last year the strength was obviously the 2 first-rounders. You could give them a lot more responsibility, and they ate. And, they put pressure up the middle. And I don't dislike this group. Rayshon Benny, I think he's going to be a name. He was coming off an ACL tear last year that happened at the end of the season in the Alabama game. I believe he tore his ACL. He came back and played last year, but your first year back from an ACL, especially at that position, it's not the same. I think he's going to be back. He's going to be looking so damn good this year. He's going to be the leader. He's played the most snaps on the defensive line. He's a guy, if you don't know his name in the Big Ten community, Rayshon Benny, he's going to be an impact guy. He's one of the three-eye technique guys, so he's inside defensive tackle-ish, but he's an absolute unit. They got 2 transfers. Damon Payne, who's a Michigan local kid who's at Bama the last few years, he came back. Trey Williams, he's a mammoth of a man, I believe, 320 plus. He's a nose tackle. He's an absolute unit. Played at Clemson. He transferred because Clemson has so much talent there. So it's not like, oh, play at Clemson. It's, hey, they had other really, really good guys and more snaps you want. Really like him. You have Che Pierce, Ike Iwuna, and then you have the 2 guys that I think are going to be the strength of the team. If everyone remembers 2021, Michigan basically lost 2 first-rounders if David Ojabo doesn't go down with a ACL or Achilles at his pro day. He would have been a first-rounder. He absolutely killed everything. He would have tested off the walls. And everyone was like, oh my God, what's Michigan's D-line going to do? How are they going to ever replace any of these guys? And then the next year, Mike Morris comes in, 10-step, Defensive Player of the Year in the Big Ten. And then, oh my God, you lose him. You lose, Chris Hinton, Mozzie Smith, all these guys. Oh, okay. They come back, Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant dominate everyone. And the same the last year. So I'm not too worried about this group, the way that they're churning guys out. But TJ Guy, he is returning as the most guys sacks on the team. I think 5.5 last year. He's a super speed edge rusher. Then Derek Moore, I think this dude's in for a really, really good year. He had a 32% pressure rate last year, but he only had, and so he was getting to the quarterback, but there's avenues for him to escape, and or Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant also, got to the quarterback. So I think he's going to have a good big day. He's a huge, powerful guy. He's going to be more of the pusher of the pocket. When TJ Guy is going to really try to win, like Aiden Hutchinson, Ojabo, less the speed guy, and Ojabo could kind of get singled up. I think that's going to be some problems. I'm really high on this group. Obviously, there's going to be a drop-off talent, but the strength just moves. You go from having, a solid, okay edges and great interior to just solid, okay middle interior and great edges. And there's still a lot of talent on this group. Michigan recruits the D-line exceptionally well. So I'm not overall very worried about this group.
Fair enough, KB. If you want to keep going about linebackers, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. We returning both linebackers, Jayshawn Barham, who was a Maryland transfer, and Ernest Hausman, who was a Nebraska transfer. They've been in the system now for, this will be Barham's second year, Ernest Hausman's third year. I think this is going to be a really, really good. They consider Jimmy Rolder a third starter. They really like what he brings in the team. He's a senior. He's never redshirted, so he plays, and he's just been on and off the field injured, but a lot to like about him. Being able to rotate 3 linebackers keeps everyone fresh, especially if one's more of a coverage guy, one's going to be a little bit more of an attacker blitzer, which is what Barham does. I really like this group. And then redshirt freshman Cole Sullivan. He's 6'4" and 245, but he moves like a damn dog, according to Write the Report. Mm-hmm. I can't watch them, but he's a really tall, lanky kid. And I think that with the amount of good tight ends in the Big Ten, that gives you an ability to put a linebacker on a tight end instead of forcing a nickel to try to cover someone really big and can kind of body him. He's 6'4", 245 or 230, so that gives you a big enough body to disrupt the big tight ends. So I'm excited about this group. This is, I think, going to be the most well established and best group out of everyone on the defense. So I'm looking forward to how they play this year.
Yeah, I love that, KB. Yeah, linebackers are big. I feel really good about State's linebacking core. We get Wayne Matthews back, tackle machine. Jordan Hall, I think he's kind of that captain of the defense. He'll be that quarterback at middle linebacker. And then we play a 4-2-5, so I think those 2 guys will be the main 2. Darius Snow, I think, I feel bad for him. He had such a bad knee injury a couple years back, friendly fire from a teammate, blew his knee out. They have him listed as number 1 a linebacker as well, but we're on a 4-2-5, so we probably might play a little nickel, he's kind of a hybrid kind of body type. I think he could have a decent season. Would love to see him have a good year after that injury. He's got a cool face mask. His last name's Snow. There's a guy that plays in the Bills that has like snowflakes, so they do the same thing for him, which is pretty cool thing to. We'll see that obviously in the future. And then behind the stars, we got a little deeper with a guy from BYU, Asaya Moa. I think so you say it. He's kind of deep right now, the depth chart, but I can see him being pretty good. I think he started a good amount, / played a good amount at BYU. Then we have Brady Pletzlaff, who's a local kid from Gaylord, and then Marcellus Pullman, who is a transfer from Miami last year, and then one guy, Samaj Bridgman from Michigan. I think we're pretty deep here. I think Wayne Matthews and Jordan Hall are going to carry this team with their leadership. Wayne Matthews is a tackle machine, and Hall is kind of that leader, and he'll make a lot of tackles too. So I feel relatively good about these guys. Cal Holiday is gone, so shout out Matt Neal. I know we love that. Could not do anything in pass coverage, but could just fill a hole if he needed it. So looking forward to this linebacking crew and seeing where Darius Snow can fit in and make some plays. And I think he could be a good leader. He's a senior. And then I'd like to see, for me, I'd like to see Pretzlaff and the guy from BYU get some snaps. I think Brady Pletzlaff. I know Gaylord's in the middle of nowhere in Michigan, but he was kind of their guy there. So I'd like to see him and the guy from BYU make some plays throughout the season. Then we'll transition to the last one for me.
I do have one. I forgot to mention these guys, both linebackers. Nathan Owusu Boateng. He was a 5-star, one of the last key piece of this group. He was a late flip to Michigan, so might see him early. Obviously, linebacker is a really difficult position, but if you just let a kid go out there. And then another guy, transfer, he was initially committed to Michigan, flipped to Georgia, spent the last 2 years at Georgia, transferred to Michigan as a redshirt sophomore, Troy Bowles. Obviously, Georgia has really elite linebackers. He couldn't quite crack through there, so him transferring, maybe sitting a year learning, I'm excited if he does. Injuries can pile up at any position, and so I do like that there's some depth at this position.
Fair enough. But we'll go to secondary. Terrible for Michigan State the last few years. This Mel Tucker fucked us. Let's be real. So feeling a little bit better this year. We got deeper with transfers. Malcolm Bell from UConn. Joshua Eaton was Oklahoma, then Texas State, and then another guy from Eastern Illinois. That's not that more important. Chance Rucker, I think, is going to be pretty good. He'll start. It'll be him and Malcolm Bell. I think we'll go back and forth. I'm really liking our safeties, KB. I think that's where we're strong in the secondary. Nakai Martinez, number 1. Transfer last year from UCF. He's all over the place. Not the best when it comes to the deep ball, but he's kind of a heat-seeking missile. Will come up on the line, make some tackles, and pretty good in those first 10 to 15 yards. I think when the ball goes further down the field, he can struggle a little bit. And then Malik Spencer, terrible number, 43 for a free safety, but he's been in the team forever, and he's pretty solid. He's a good leader to have. A little bit curious to see how things go when it comes with the guys on the edge, on the outside when it comes to Rucker and Malcolm Bell and Joshua Eaton. So obviously I think the D coordinator who's coming back from last year, who's pretty good, I'm blanking on his name right now, but I think if he can just kind of get this secondary a little bit of help with some blitzes and the D-line getting some pressure on the quarterback, I think we'll be fine. But, if we get into a game and they're starting to throw deep balls and somebody's getting picked on like we have been in the future, I think we might be a little SOL. But I feel better than last year, as we all should, and see what happens, but it's hard to know because we've struggled so poorly since Mel Tucker just decimated our DB room somehow, some way. So hopefully it gets better going forward.
Yeah, no fly zone. You guys were really press coverage every single play, and we're gonna yank and grab you, and we can't call it every time. And so many picks and so many good defensive plays in that group. Like you said, it's just surprising. Mel Tucker, defensive coordinator, couldn't figure out how to stop people running past all their defensive backs every single play. Yep. Still have PTSD, I'm sure, from the OSU game a couple of years ago, where they did not cover a single person all day.
Nope. Kenneth Walker was hurt too, so that was what made it no game at all. Yeah. It wasn't exciting, obviously.
Yeah. So for Michigan, DB room is a little bit of a question mark, and it's more depth. Zeke came last year as a nickel. I over the position. Nickel and Michigan's defense with how much they do in this kind of Ravens, Baltimore, style of defense, the 4-2-5 with all the responsibilities and I think he would well. He went outside last year due to some injuries outside. and he played tremendous outside. He was really good locking down those cornerbacks, so excited to get him back on the outside. Jair Hill, he got double moved last year, but he was a safety rolling down to play the corner position. This is my one cause for concern. If there's a guy that's going to get picked on, it's going to be him. But he has all the physical characteristics. In the bowl game last year, he had a lot of laps against Ryan Williams, and Ryan Williams didn't really do anything. He was able to out physically and match him athletically, which was a good thing. Safeties is where I feel really, really comfortable. And to also go back, the nickelbacker is going to be T.J. Metcalf, who's an Arkansas transfer. This was a huge pickup. He's a junior. He's really smart. I think this is maybe the best defensive, secondary pickup that we could have gotten as a position of need. Really excited to see him. And then safety, you kind of have a group of people here, guys, and I'm sure we'll all rotate. You have Braden Hillman. This guy's a heat-seeking missile. Like, he knocked 2 people out on 2 consecutive legal plays last year that were for targeting. They clean, and he near decapitated some people. And like one of his big things is like, hey, like for your health, you can't hit people that hard all the time. But man, he is a freak. He's a heat seeker, and I hope he can avoid targeting. But he hits really hard. Then you have Mason Curtis, who's a 6'5" safety, really tall, really lanky. He had a pick last year. I'm really excited to see where he goes. Didn't play a lot, but in his snaps he looked good. And then you have kind of the 2 older guys safety room. Yeah, Jaden Mangum, obviously the MSU transfer. I don't know why your fan base flames that guy. He came over and redshirted.
He did.
It was basically all it is, and you guys are like, what a loser. Not play. He finished his degree. I don't know. That was really weird behavior. Like, everyone's wishing the linebacker that transferred good luck, and you guys, this is unbelievable, screw him. I don't know. I think the cap was a little goofy, but overall, like, everyone just hated him the second he transferred. They're like, he's starting at MSU. Well, yeah, and he's sitting at Michigan for a year to, probably come back from an injury that he maybe was lingering, but he redshirted.
He did do some at graduation. He did do some at graduation with, like, so he kind of like.
Cap, what is?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But you guys hated him long before graduation.
True.
All last year is all I heard every single time. Oh, why is it Mangum out there? Oh my God, he trans. Which is fine. You can hate whoever you want. It's just really funny. And then Rod Moore, he missed all of last year with an injury that he had suffered in the spring, which sucks. He's a really smart, really intelligent guy. If he's healthy for the season, he's basically having another quarterback, another player on the field with how smart he is. He's going to call out your formations. He's going to call out your positions. He's going to be like, I studied this. I know exactly where this is going. He's so super, super, super smart. The concern at this 2 positions are especially at quarterback. You have Shamari Earls, who's wearing number 2. Charles Woodson's number. That's a lot of pressure. Last kid to do that was Will Johnson. He had a pretty good career. He actually played really well yesterday, too, for the Cardinals. So you have Shamari Earls. You have Edmund, highly rated. He wears number 16. Don't know if I like that for a defensive back, but he's a sophomore. So really need someone to kind of step up, to have some transfers, have some being in the wing backfield. But I'm excited to see this group. Safety's definitely string, cornerbacks constrained with depth, but Michigan's defense is going to be fine. It took Wink Martindale about 6 games to figure it out, and after the bye week, after they played Oregon, they blew out Northwestern. They held Indiana to 20 points in an offense that was scoring on everyone, and they really only scored that. Michigan's offense couldn't do dick. And then they shut down Ohio State. So obviously you're not going to get the same level of production, but I'm really ecstatic about how this defense looks, how they're going to play and everything. Like, I'm not really that concerned. It's all offensive concerns.
Yeah, for sure. Special teams really quick, and then we'll jump into for me, I'm not going to break down every game, but I'll go through them. But I think special teams, I feel pretty good about our punter, Ryan Eckley. He is really good. He's a junior, probably one of the better in the Big Ten. Kicking will be a question mark with Tarek Ahmet Speck and Martin Cunnington, who's from Idaho, really good. The Tarek is a local kid, and I'm pretty sure our long snapper is a transfer last year from JMU. And then Amari Kelly and Crenshaw McCray are listed for returners. And then Alante Brown, who's a little bit buried on the wide receiver chart, he got lit up in the first game last year. First kickoff of the season, just got knocked out, put him back in the game. It was a bad look. But it would be good to have Kelly and McCray back there. Feel good about a punter. Kicking will be a question mark. We'll see how that goes. But hopefully we don't need it too much, and hopefully they're chip shots. But we'll see what happens.
Especially like you said, Hollenbach is our punter. He punted I think he's a lefty. He punted in the bowl game, so we've at least seen him. There was a Missouri punter that transferred in, and I think he left. So I think a good sign, like a guy comes in to compete with you and you force him to transfer at punter. I think that means that you're out punt. Kicker, we have the best kicker in the country, Dominic Zavada. Kicking has been really good for Michigan for a lot of years now in a row. Whoever the kicking coach is, whoever is over that, let's keep it going. I don't know. I've been really impressed with all the kickers going back. Quinn Nordine could boot some 50-yarders, and Jake Moody was really, really good, and now Zavada, who was the transfer. Long snapper, don't know some transfer. Then punt return is going to be Samaj Morin or Morion Stewart, who's a redshirt freshman, and then obviously Simpson. Kick returner, Jordan Marshall, the running back, will be the kick returner alongside Simpson, the wide receiver transfer. Just don't fumble the ball would be my thing. Your punt go far. Last year, Michigan's punt team, they were really focused on hang time. And I think that was a net negative because they lost field position so much when they didn't let the ball as far as you could. Like, hey, if it's at the 40, yeah, hang time. Let them not get a return. But if it's at your own 20, just kick the ball as far as you can and we'll figure it out. So interesting to see how that group plays. But yeah, we'll quick go over the schedule. We'll do out-of-conference games, and then we'll bounce back and forth for conference games. So you want to go first?
Yeah, so State should be 3-0 after non-conference. We have Western at home, Boston College at home, and then Youngstown. Obviously, the big one is Boston College, a game we should have won last year in BC, but just in Boston, just a lot of mental mistakes and couldn't finish the game. And coming out of halftime, I think they scored like 2 or 3 touchdowns in a row, and that was really the game. And then we just couldn't figure it out. Western will be fun. I shout out Tate Halleck, who's a local kid who transferred from State to Western. He plays safety there. He's one of their better players on defense. It'd be cool to see him, going against his old team. And I know he still has a lot of his whole family went to State, so I know, and his sister plays basketball there, so I know it's important to him. I think we win that one pretty handedly. Hopefully we start the year better than last year. The FAU game was super frustrating, and just couldn't really get anything going. The quarterback doesn't want to slide either, KB. Remember that. Boston College, I'm assuming if we're in Boston right now, I think they're probably thinking they can win this game too. I just think we have more talent, kind of question mark on the quarterback. I don't know. I know their guy transferred to Florida State. So I think it will be a dogfight, but I think we have enough to, I think this will be a game where we can see where our talent lies and how much we can do. And then Youngstown, that's an easy win. Not too worried about it. Get Childs some good throws in there. I think you do some extra plays to get some practice in. I don't think obviously play all your cards, but get some try some new schemes. Get guys rotating in because the next game after that, the next 2 are big conference games. But yeah, 3-0 non-conference for me, KB.
Yeah, so we have New Mexico. I'm looking forward to that game. If Bryce starts or Mike, I'm just excited to see the offensive changes and how it looks. Then we have at Oklahoma. This is obviously night game, going to be huge, probably one of the best games of the year for out-of-conference play. I'm going to chalk this up to a loss until I see looks one. They have John Mateer transferred in, the OC from John Mateer, Washington State,
Slinging
and then Jaden Ott. So I think they have a better offense. I do kind of want to pump the brakes on John Mateer. A lot of people are really obsessed with saying, well, Cam Ward transferred from Washington State, and there's a lot of Washington transfer. Yeah, but Washington State was playing in the Pac-12 those years. This last year, they played, a Mountain West schedule, Division One ball, Power 4 guys. It's not like he was playing with equal level athletes. Some of the plays, Josh Kelly, I believe, is a receiver that got drafted in the 2nd or 3rd round. He's at the Patriots right now. He was just able to do a lot for him in that offense. But Not to say John Mateer isn't going to be a good quarterback. Let's pump the brakes. Let's see him play against some real power conference opponents, and then I'll check off that box. But I'm chalking that down to a loss right now. And then come back with our mates, Central Michigan. We always play directional school, just like Michigan State plays directional school every year. That game shouldn't be good, and that's actually the first game of the Sharon Moore suspension. So I expect that game to probably be a little closer than we'd probably like it. Especially for the first half, Michigan play turned on. That's how the game. Harbaugh was out the previous year. How it looked. So
Fuck Central Michigan.
2-1. Yeah, 2-1 would be fine. 3-0 would be a perfect start, the ideal start. I think it's possible, but I would bank my cards on that right now. Playing at Oklahoma is really, really tough. Going into Norman with what could be a true freshman quarterback on your first road game of the season is difficult. And this is going to be a weird season for Michigan. They don't have back-to-back home games all year. They only have 6 home games, so they got the weird end of the Big Ten schedule, 5-4, right? We're playing 4 home games this year, and they obviously are on the road for Oklahoma. So we'll see how all this works out, but excited to next couple steps.
Yeah, okay. Jumping into Big Ten play for State, KB, I have 1 or 2 for sure wins. I can go. I'll go to those later, but it's going to be an interesting year. There's going to be a lot of games we can win, and there's 2 games we should win: UCLA and Maryland. The can win games, I think we'll really know right away because we go at USC, at Nebraska. If at USC is close, I think it can be close, but we don't really know. I think USC, in my opinion, is a question mark with Lincoln Riley and what he can do there. But obviously traveling is tough, and that's kind of what it is in the Big Ten now. So I wrote down all these games earlier, and I had win, 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 and then I have blanks and games that I picked already. So over under for State's 5.5, and I think this USC game is a big proponent on, I think a bowl game is where we need to be. I want this to be a win, but to be realistic, I'm going to give us the L. Just the traveling and what Lincoln Riley can do with an offense might be the difference. So I'll go a loss, but I think we have some fight. This is where Jonathan Smith is from, California, from LA area, and then obviously went to Oregon State. So would love to see the team fight for him, but I just don't know if we're there yet when it comes to where we need to be. But when State has a good year, they kind of come under the radar. I listened to the Barstool podcast. They barely talked about us, which I think is interesting. But with how big the Big Ten is nowadays, everybody's not going to get a slice of the pie. But I'm going to go side tangent. I'm going to go, unfortunately, a close loss to USC.
Michigan starts off with what should be an interesting game. It actually depends on what happens in Oklahoma, Nebraska, at Nebraska. You three Matt Rhule. You got Illinois, Iowa, former number 2 quarterback in the country, coming in year 2 a lot last season, had some ups, had some downs. That's going to be a scary game, and I think it's going to put into perspective where Michigan's at. If Michigan can go on the road and win by 2 scores, I think that puts them in a really good place to get over their 8.5 wins, which is their under. If it's a close game, I think they'll be right hovering at it, and if they lose, that obviously puts them in a bad place because Michigan could start the season 2-2 pretty easily. Which puts a lot of pressure on the team, this mumbling start. And again, this game is without Sharon Moore, coach going on the road. That's really, really tough.
For sure. So what do you have it? Win?
I'm going to have that as a win.
Fair enough.
I think they go in there and win. I think Nebraska's, they're like 1-30 against ranked teams. They lose every one close game, and I don't think it's going to be against Michigan.
Yeah, fair enough. We actually have Nebraska the following week. At Nebraska.
Yep.
It's another game where I think we can win, but it's going to be one of those years where I don't know what the team's like probably until week 4 or that Boston College game. I got a pick, though, and I'm going to give us the edge. Maybe Michigan beats them down a little bit. Royala's still kind of getting used to he made some freshman mistakes, but I know he's going to be better this year. I just think our coaching staff is one of the best in the conference. I know it's probably a crazy thing to say, but I think we can out-coach Nebraska and get a close win because they don't know how to win the close one.
Nice. Yeah, we have Wisconsin next on our schedule at home. I think Hills, Wisconsin. I think Fickle's going to be gone. I think he's completely obliterated a strong, consistent, confident program to be soft little delicate pussies. I think he's coaching them as if they're Cincinnati. He's coached him as if they're in the American, and it's been an abject failure of a coaching tenure at Wisconsin for him, and I don't think it's going to get better there. Michigan wins.
Fair enough. Okay, next for state homecoming, UCLA noon kick. Give me the win. I mean that's a win for me. That's a tough travel game for UCLA. That's a 9 o'clock local kick. I still don't think they're there with their coach yet. I know they might be a little bit better. I'm not even sure their quarterback is right now, but I think UCLA is kind of going to be in the lower tier of the Big Ten. But I think we get that.
You
win.
say you don't know who their quarterback is?
Oh, it's Nico.
Nico.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun to see him and what they can. I should have known that, a brain fart. But it'll be interesting to see where he is and the team around him, because I don't know if they have a lot of talent around him per se. They did kind of have a good finish to the season, so this could be a nice back and forth game. But I think State has the edge, and I think the coaching really in the middle of the season will make that difference to the team.
Yeah, it's one of those whole games where how to compete, because that's honestly where MSU's at is UCLA. Like how are they going to level with conference with all the changes? Michigan has USC next. There was a down to the wire game previously. Obviously, Jaden Nava, they're hyping him up. They've put in a lot of work. We'll see if their defense continues to improve. But it's still an O-line question for USC. Michigan played some horrible football, didn't pass for 100 yards, and still able to luckily win. I think Michigan loses this game. I think USC, traveling across the country, like you said, Quist, it puts Michigan in a difficult spot traveling that far. After playing Wisconsin, I think just have an opportunity here to trip up. I think this is going to be a talented team, and I think that some of the strengths of USC is going to outlast Michigan. So I think they're going to lose this one.
Fair enough. Obviously I have us beating Michigan, but this is the one that's a question mark for me. But we're at Indiana for the Old Rasputin. I kind of want to go to this one because it's only like a 4 or 5 hour drive. Does Sagnetti still have it? He's going to have Mendoza, big body guy from California, as quarterback. I think he's going to start losing those JMU guys that transferred over with them. But I still think Indiana's a good team. And I think this is where we're going to lose a close game where we should probably win. So I had this a loss. I don't want to be too optimistic on this team. I think we're about 8-4, and a lot of people would say that's even too optimistic with the fourth hardest schedule in the Big Ten. So as much as I want us, I think we're there for Indiana. I think they had a high year, but we'll see how they are under Sig going forward. I think it's a loss, but this could be a game. Like I said, Keith, there's a lot of games where we should win, could win, but I can't be too big on us when I have us beating Michigan, because I have to do that personally.
Yeah, we don't have to live in reality for these predictions. Michigan plays Washington next. Michigan is going to be at home. I think Michigan's going to be. I know really high on Damon Williams.
He's good.
He's small, and I am concerned for how he can last. I think he took 8 sacks against Louisville in the bowl game last year. And getting hit that much, that he'll be 6-7 games in the season. I'm just a little concerned with how he'll last. Kind of reminds me when Nebraska joined and they had Martinez, and by about the 5th game of the year, he was out for like 3 straight years because you just can't last. And he's small. He's 5'10", like barely over 200. But he's a high-end athlete. He can sling the ball. He has Denzel Boston. There's still a lot to like there. But I think Michigan can corral him. Michigan's been able to anti-Jalen Milroe it, where you really just push him into a box and don't let him escape. And I think they'll able to win this game.
Fair enough. Next one will be...
And it's at home.
Yeah, I think that makes a difference too. I think Washington could be a sleeper good team this year. Second year under Jed Fish.
I agree.
Next is Michigan State, KB. Obviously, I got to take my team here. I think it's at home, which I think helps, especially last year, first year for Smith being at Michigan, not knowing, which I still can't understand, not knowing how big this game is for... Obviously, you guys still have Ohio State, but this is in-state. I think there is a lot to that. Obviously, not as much as Ohio State, but it's close. A little bit. But I think we did control the first half of the game so much last year, and it was a frustrating loss. Nate Carter could have had a generational game, and we just squandered it away. Obviously, Michigan in the second half, shut us down, and you guys couldn't even throw the ball and beat us. So the trick plays was the difference. So frustrating. I think the home crowd, we can get rowdy. The Michigan State game, it's always a fun time. It's always a great tailgate. But I think we have enough. I think the receiving core here really could show out, and if we can run the ball just a little bit, I think this could be a nice a nice, good win. It'll be close. It's a rival, but I have faith in my team just as much as you have faith in your team.
Yeah, I think a close game is definitely here. I think, MSU's last time they played Michigan in that building, it was 49-0. It was
Thanks, KB.
horrible. I needed to remind you. And so I think,
Cheaters.
yeah, exactly. Even though you guys,
It didn't matter. It wouldn't have mattered. It didn't matter. It
yeah,
didn't
no,
matter.
it was a. But I just one thing I hope is I don't want shit to happen. Like I want the game to happen. Whatever happens, happen. That I don't. The result, I'll be damned. I think Michigan's gonna win. I think State is a year away talent wise from really being there, and they don't have D'Antonio dark magic every year to pull out random wins. So I think that it's going to be a close game, and I think Michigan pulls away just talent wise. I think they're a little bit higher up there, but I just don't want shit to happen. That's more of what I'm concerned about. And like even if Michigan loses, like I don't want a fight. I don't want a scuffle. I don't want anything to happen. Play the game, and whatever happens, happens. Because it's been 3 consecutive years of whenever the game ends, there's bullshit going on afterwards where one person did this and the other person did this, and both fan bases are like, the other person started it. When it's like, guys, we're both contributing to this because we can't both admit we're doing wrong things. So that's what I want. I don't want anyone to start anything to happen. Everything in between, obviously, there's going to be some personal fouls. There's going to be some aggressive hits. Fine. Let's keep it not dangerous. And we've seen games leak into being extremely dangerous for both sides the last couple of years, which isn't fun or good or nice for anyone. So that's what I mostly hope about for this game. I'm excited to watch it. Excited to kind of see the game again, and hopefully it's nice, and hopefully Michigan wins. Honestly, I think they're going to win. Like I said, I think State's 1 year away from really being able to compete, at that level with the talent they have.
Fair enough. Next for State is at Minnesota, another game that could be easy to go to for us. Quick flight to Minneapolis. I think this is also a good game to see where we are. I think Minnesota, UCLA is the teams we should beat, so I'm going to go with the win here. Row the boat, all that stuff with PJ Fleck. I just think I don't know who their quarterback is. Obviously, they have that really good running back from Detroit. They're gonna
Darius Taylor.
They're gonna lean on him probably for 25, 30 carries. So if we can bottle him up, I have faith that our quarterback and offense is better than that. But if we can't stop Taylor, we lose. But I have faith in our front seven to slow him down a little bit. Probably a low scoring. This will be a Big Ten game. It's probably gonna be beginning of November-ish, end of October. So it'll be a little chilly. But I think State gets the win based on the talent on the offensive side of the ball, and if we can slow down Taylor.
Yeah, Drake Lindsey's their quarterback. He was a really highly touted 4-star. He's a redshirt freshman, so he had a year in the system. Obviously, he sat behind Max Brosmer, who was an FCS transfer last year. They're really high on him, so it will be an interesting game. I think both these guys are evenly leveled, and these are the games that if you want to kind of flip the script, jump up in the standings, get to bowl games, this is one of those you have to win. Tough, difficult game on the road. Minnesota always gives me weird vibes playing at Minnesota. I don't know why. A few years ago, they played a really close game against Ohio State. I believe in 2017.
Was it like the first? Michigan, was that an early game too? And
the first game of the year, yeah.
Darius was going off too.
Yeah, it was like a weird close game where I think OSU pulled away with like 2 touchdowns down the stretch, but it was weirdly close the entire game. And I just feel like they always kind of have that Houdini magic. But it'll be interesting to see how that team plays this year. They're really high on, which can be good and bad, but just kind of the vibes I get from that team. Michigan plays Purdue. Michigan wins by 1 billion.
Easy. That's a nice one. Next, we're home against Penn State for the ugliest trophy ever, the Land Grant. I would like to see us put up a fight here. Penn State's stacked. Everybody came back. Probably one of the better quarterbacks in the country. The running backs are good. I think they got better at wide receiver, and that D-line and that defense is nasty. I don't think we win. James Franklin is not the best coach, so I'd love for that to be kind of close. I'd love to see the team have some fight and keep it in with whatever the spread is. So that's kind of where I feel on that one. But they're highly ranked. They're getting a lot of guys back. They're probably top 14 win the Natty. So keep it close, but that's a loss at home.
Michigan against Nebraska. Michigan by 1 billion.
Okay, fun. At Iowa, it's a weird game. Kinnick is weird. Like I said, we had the 4th hardest schedule in the Big Ten. We don't play Oregon and Ohio State, though, thank God. I have an L. I did think Their quarterback's actually solid. He's a transfer from South Dakota. I know South Dakota State. That's FCS. He pretty much won the Heisman for them. I think he can sling
But
the
that
ball.
was 2 years ago. So last year he had an off year. He had a down year last
Oh,
year.
okay.
He completed like 50% of his pass, 50 something, maybe 60.
Oh,
The year
okay.
before he was like 70%. So he did win the Heisman, but it was 2 years removed, and he wasn't even like a National Player of the Year player. Right? I just want to make sure everyone's aware of that.
Walter
It's
Payton,
2023.
Walter Payton Award, I think is what it's called for FCS.
Yeah.
Obviously, they can run the ball. They're going to have a stingy defense. That's just who they are, what they do. This will be another low-scoring Big Ten game, 21-17, 17-20, 24-21 kind of game. We've had success. We beat the brakes off of Iowa last year, which was so weird in the middle of the year. Like, we played so fucking good, and then we just couldn't figure it out after that game. So I think we can keep it close, but I think at Iowa later in the season, it'll be cold, and I think Penn State might beat us up a little bit. So I don't know if we have that, but this will be another game where I kind of want to see us, be close and hopefully get the win. But right now I have us as an L at Iowa.
Michigan versus Maryland. It's the second to last game of the year.
See ya.
It's usually like 80% Michigan fans at Maryland. They do have a really highly touted quarterback, highest quarterback recruit in program history. I know because I'm playing with them on the Dynasty. But they're really high on him. But this game's always close. I hate playing Maryland. I'm so annoyed playing Maryland.
They're not
every year. They're not good, but they play Michigan well all the
do.
time. Josh Gaddis was there for a while, so he knew the playbook inside and out. And, all the way going back to, 2022, 2021, Michigan killed them. But 2022, early game of the year, close. 2023, it was close. And the game right before OSU, the team's always a little bit unfocused. They're always a little bit not locked in. They're looking forward to it. And you always say every year, you could just play and kick their ass in this game. I mean, I've seen it too many times. It's just the teams know what's going to be the game next week, and so they're just not as locked in. I'm still predicting a win, but this is going to be like if Michigan is doing what I'm saying, where I think they're 8-2 at this point, with losses to Oklahoma and USC. They're probably going to be ranked, and they're going to play a weirdly close game against Michigan. What is going on? This is not the team we just watched beat the brakes off Northwestern, and maybe Maryland's just as bad. It happens every year, so it's going to be a close game, close win. I hope they can make the plays to pull it out, but this game always gives me nerves right before OSU to end the season.
Yeah, we play Maryland at Ford Field again, which I like. I know some people don't like that, but, I thank God I didn't go to Rutgers at home. We got fucking destroyed. It was cold. I like being in Detroit. It's indoors. It's kind of cool to be in the city. So I think that's an easy win for us. I know Maryland can be kind of weird. I'd rather play Maryland at Ford Field than Penn State and get fucking destroyed. But it'd be cool to be in Detroit again. I already got the tickets for me and the wife. It would be fun to be there with some friends too, probably, and be out and around Detroit, support them, and I think we get a nice win here to end the year. So I think after counting KB, I'm probably higher than most. I got us going 8-4. I think we need to be 6-6. And like I've said all this time through the schedule, there's a lot of games that we can win, should win, but we don't know yet. We don't know those teams I think USC. Obviously, I think they're the better team. That game, in my opinion, could be close, go either way. Indiana and Iowa are games too, in my opinion, not knowing where State is yet. That could go either way. So obviously, I think 5-7. If things don't go our way, 5-7 could happen for sure. I don't think you fire Smith. I think he's too good of a coach and too good of a staff. I know it's a new AD. I think that's too much work. I know the buyout is minimal, but I think if we go 5-7, do not fire him. 6-6 is the goal, but I can see us going 7-5, 8-4. If I'm really being optimistic DQ or Quist here, 9-3 is possible, but realistically,
Wait, optimistic DQ wasn't 8-4. That was just
I think 7-5. I mean, like I'm saying, there's a lot of games.
I'm just giving you a tough time, Dave. No,
there's a lot of games, in my opinion. It'll be interesting going through and really focusing on our teams, KB, as the season goes on, because I'll really know how good this team is. Obviously, being at games and I'll watch highlights, but really interesting to see how things turn out for this team. Would love to go to a bowl game, get those young guys those practices. And I would love for Childs to stay. He's a true junior. I think he does need another year. And those practices do make a difference. So 6-6 is the what we need. I think 7-5, 8-4 would be a good step up, and then obviously, like you said a couple games ago, I think next year could be relatively good if we get some good recruits in, and you never know transfers. But I have us going 8-4, but I can also see 6-6, 7-5. But I feel pretty good. But like I said, there's the games when I went down. The first L's were Penn State, and then from there I was like questioning, what's it going to be. So we'll see when we get there in the season. Last year wasn't so great, but I feel pretty good about 8-4, 7-5 around that for year 2, Jonathan Smith.
Is there any concern though with how poorly he's recruiting? That's
fair.
That's more of the thing. Like, hey, you're not going to recruit well. Like, you're recruiting mostly West Coast kids.
Got a little bit of an uptick right after we hired Jay Batt. I think that hire matters, and I think they're already making changes to the concessions. Thank God, they've sucked for a long time. So I think the fundraising and stuff, and how Jay Batt brought Georgia Tech, a not so great ACC school, to doing pretty well. I think we care more about football than Georgia Tech, if I'm being honest. So I think the money's there, the pockets are deep, and how we do that and how we recruit. Obviously, I think the local guys could be there. I'm not against getting the West Coast guys either, but recruiting, I think getting 3 and 4-star guys is the bread and butter of Michigan State, like D'Antonio did, being a developing kind of program. And obviously, those 5-star guys can flash and do make a difference. But once we get the NIL figured out with the new AD, I think it could be huge.
Okay, so you think it was more NIL not having the
I think so. Haller
to be able to compete.
Yeah, Haller and I think Darren Harris was ahead of. I mean, shout out Darren Harris, great guy, great player. But I think things were a little bit not where they needed to be with NIL, and he went to the Giants. I'm not sure what Haller's doing now, but I think with Jay Batt and what he's doing and who he's brought in, and the success he's had at Georgia Tech, and I think he was at Bama for a little bit too. So he's got good experience, and fundraising is big nowadays in 2025.
Gotcha. So I'm on the last game of the year for me. Obviously, the game, noon o'clock kick. Of course, Michigan's at home. I'm going to pick Michigan to win this game. I think Ohio State's going to be a really good team. It's 4 straight years that Michigan has been able to impose their will. It kind of seems like one of those monkeys that you can't get off, your back, that you just feel like is impossible to do for Ryan Day. Obviously, OSU still won a natty. It was the first year of the expanded playoffs. Every other year, all history, they wouldn't have made it. But they were able to go in there and run. But I just think that they have so much change that it's going to maybe lead to Michigan in this. I think it's going to tight game. I think it's going to be an opportunity for Michigan to, win. If OSU wins this game, I would not be surprised.
Homer, is it home or away?
Michigan's home.
Okay.
But I think having Matt Patricia be your defensive coordinator is a huge red flag to me. I don't know how you could ever think to hire that guy at a university as prestigious as OSU. I think your defensive coordinator begging to leave to go to Penn State
forgot about that.
is a red flag, in that him and Ryan Day did not mesh at all. And losing your offensive coordinator, Brian Kelly, who's the former Oregon coach. I'm blanking. He's at the Raiders now.
Oregon coach. I'm Helfrich?
No, like the Oregon coach that started the offense.
I don't know.
Chip Kelly. Jesus Christ.
He went to the Raiders?
Yeah, he's the Raiders OC.
I didn't know that. I didn't know both OCs left. Shit.
Yeah. So the defensive coordinator and offensive coordinator left. Chip Kelly is really, really good. Now, is the quarterback going to be good? Yeah. Ryan Day's quarterback. The receivers are incredible. Max Clair's incredible. I just give a little concern to the defense. They lost a lot on the defensive line, and they aren't as deep. In defensive secondary, I'm just a little nervous there too. Igbinosun was the most analyzed quarterback in college football last year, and it didn't look like he learned his lesson at all. So I think Michigan can win this game. Like I said, if OSU wins it, if Michigan has 2 losses at this point, this would be the win to get them into playoff. I do think that they go 10-2. I think 10-2 is reasonable. It's a little homery. Their wins are 8.5. A bad season would probably be 8-4. There's just so many like lock wins on the schedule where they're so vastly improved. Where if they had any QB play last year, like if Michigan switches with 90 schools at quarterback last year, they probably get close to 10 wins. And although the schedule only has 6 home games, I think just the level of quarterback play is going to be better. And defensively, I don't think you're going to have drastic fall off where they're going to let up a bunch of points. There's just too many skilled guys, too many good recruits. So I think, maybe if they win 11 games would probably be my ceiling, where like 10 or 11 is probably the ceiling. Like, wow, that year to avoid Oklahoma, maybe they win there. But it's a lot of away games, and they could even lose Ohio State 9-3, 8-4. Like, I don't know how disappointed I'd be in that with a true freshman starting all year. And really next year is the not golden ticket, but the finish line for being a championship level team. It usually takes a few years post a championship, especially with how much talent left at Michigan. But it would be cool if they like came down to the last week of the season. To me, that would be like a good year. I would say that, like, if it comes down to it, eventually they're going to win. OSU fans thought they were never going to lose again. So I'm not there yet, but it's an opportunity, and hopefully she can play.
Yeah, fair enough. It'll be an interesting year, KB. And I was second year of the expanded playoff, and I just watched the SEC show, which is pretty good on Netflix. Quarterback was also good, and Hard Knocks. So I'm like locked in for football, and we're only a couple weeks away. Looking really forward to it. I think Penn State, OSU are the cream of the crop, and Oregon. We're really looking forward to Dante Moore out there. Obviously, a local kid.
Michigan kid, yep.
Michigan kid, went to UCLA, then transferred to Oregon and sat last year. I think there might be a couple teams that come out of nowhere. You never know, and that's why we love college football. Really looking forward to it. Week 1 is loaded. Thank God we play on Friday so I can sit in Saturday and just be a fucking lazy piece of shit and watch a great day week 1, because we have Texas OSU to start, and I think a couple other good games in there. But feeling good, KB. Obviously, we all feel good in camp. We're listening to everybody hype up our teams. Kona Ice, shout out to them, was just at state scrimmage, a local business. But yeah, looking forward to year 2 under Smith and seeing Childs hopefully take a big step. Really, really feel good about those receivers, KB. That's what I'm high on for our team and the linebacking core on defense. But I got nothing else, guys. It's probably our longest episode of the season. We're diving deep on the roster and the schedule. We'll probably be shorter, quicker episodes, 20 minutes, half an hour going forward. But we wanted to, be back for you guys, break down our teams, break down our schedules, and then we'll have some conversations before week 1, and then we'll do a preview and one other game. So I'm feeling pretty good, KB. Football can't be soon enough, and looking forward to be back at East Lansing a few times this year, maybe an away game here and there. So thank you guys. As always, we're back. It's good to be back, and go green.
Yeah, it's going to be a really fun year for football. I think this is one of those years with how much talent was able to kind of hang over, and a lot of quarterbacks the last 2 years wouldn't have been quarterbacks. I think of Penix, Bo Nix, Will Howard. A lot of these guys have been in college for 5-6 years because of COVID, because of all these things. It's allowed them to stay in, and so there's a lot of replacement, a lot of turnover at schools. Alabama has a new quarterback. Ohio State has a new quarterback. Oregon has a new quarterback. Georgia has a new quarterback. Miami has a new quarterback. All these schools that are high up there all
Texas.
have new quarterbacks.
I mean,
Texas has a new quarterback.
Yeah.
Clemson
Bill Belichick.
Really the only
There's Bill Belichick
Clemson
now.
Yeah. Clemson and ASU are the 2 returning quarterbacks, but they lost some talent, especially. So it's going to be a fun year. I think the whole entire season's open. The Big 12 is going to be fun, and obviously we're going to be a little bit more scoped, but we're still going to talk about the fun things that we see, wild plays, and then anything you guys want us to talk. Questions, feel free to submit. Appreciate you guys for listening as always, and we'll finish it how we always finish. Go Blue.